Rock Island hasn't seen the same results as the other four Quad cities when it comes to economic growth. Davenport, Bettendorf, Moline, and East Moline have seen significant investments from developers in recent years. Well, things are starting to change in Rock Island, but the city still trails the others. This week brought a new budget for Rock Island. City Council adopted a spending plan that increases the tax levy overall by 2.9%. That brings a property tax increase with it. A home worth $100,000, for example, will be charged $17.25 more a year in taxes. So a $200,000 home doubles that, brings a tax increase of $34.50 a year. City Council also approved an increase in the gas tax from 3 cents to 5 cents a gallon. Economic development also got a lot of attention when the council gave the okay to 5 development proposals that should bring $13 million in investments to the city. The city is willing to offer incentives of almost $2 million over 10 years for them. The Canadian-based company Agri Solutions intends to spend almost $1 million in a 100,000 square foot facility to open in the summer. It expects to add 90 jobs over 3 years. The company already has operations in Milan. Ecogistics is another one. It's a brokerage and transportation management company. Its $3 million investment should bring 25 more jobs. That's going into a 20,000 square foot building that should be ready by the fall. Medical marijuana manufacturer Green Thumb Industries will add 60,000 square feet to its facility in its $8 million investment and fill 70 new jobs. There's Miss Bramani's Hair and Beauty Supplies. It intends to renovate space on 2nd Avenue, downtown Rock Island this summer at a cost of almost $1,000, excuse me. 3 new jobs come from that. And the QC Coffee and Pancake House plans to spend more than $500,000 itself at its location on 3rd Avenue to expand. The restaurant takes over vacant space next door and hire a dozen more employees. That expansion should be done by the summer. One more possibility on the horizon relates to the old Norcross rubber plant. Demolition of the facility on the 11-acre site is almost done. The owner, now in Kentucky, indicates he wants to replace it with a metal manufacturing plant. These plans are now only in the preliminary stage. Nothing is ready to go to City Council for that, but it is something to watch and could be significant if it comes to pass. Now, Rock Island city leaders will tell you they haven't landed a huge fish yet at any of this, but these do make up a win for a city that certainly needs some. It helps put a smile on Rock Island Mayor Mike Tomes' face, to be sure. He joins us for a conversation this morning. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Mayor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start with the budget. The city's balanced budget brings some tax increases. We mentioned the tax increase, the property tax increase of $17 a year for that $100,000 home. This comes just after Rock Island County is adding another $33 for those same homeowners. On their own, these tax increases may not sound like much, but together they do start to add up for people. How satisfied are you with this budget and the taxes that go along with that?
You know, I'm satisfied with the budget. We've worked very hard at trying to find places to cut and did some of that and looked at for some new revenue. And as you mentioned earlier about those areas, you know, we definitely need to go into it with a balanced budget. I do not want a deficit setting. There's just so many fixed expenses currently in the city that we just couldn't avoid it with the police and fire pensions and the contracts that were negotiated several years ago are still in place. And when those were negotiated, times were a little different. And so now we're having to pay those prices, and we got to fulfill on that promise.
There were cuts made to some departments in the budget. You also warned about more that could need to be made in the future. You're being honest about the situation for sure. What is the biggest problem for the city financially, and how significant do you think those cuts could be? Talk about the pensions. Is that the biggest problem?
That is the biggest problem. It fluctuates from year to year depending on the returns and everything else, but the pensions are the biggest issue. Of the close to $13 million that we collect in property taxes, almost $9 million of that is going to the police and fire pension. Not any wages or anything else, just that part. And that's growing. This year it didn't grow quite as much, but typically it's $500,000 or so a year that grows, and that is very difficult to compensate for. But not just dwell on that, there's other contracts, there's just general cost of living increases and everything else that affect it. So we need to work on some budget cuts.
And you warned about those cuts. How significant do you think those cuts could be?
You know, I think that they need to be now, my personal opinion, in the millions of dollars of a type of cut. We've made some significant cuts of $100,000 in this department, not replacing an officer or something like that in another department, which they worked fine, but now we're getting to the point that we need to make some dramatic expense cuts.
I mean, talking about dramatic then, and when you refer to the term in the millions, where do you expect those cuts in the future to come from?
You know, I'm not sure, you know, once again, exactly where. We're working on that right now. So we can be prepared for that. And it may not happen. We may not be able to find it, but one could be in healthcare. Do we change the type of benefits that we have? whether it be the deductibles and their co-pays, et cetera.
Larger employee contributions, that kind
That's
of
correct. That's correct. So that's one place that could be. Another one could be more reduction of personnel. Could be, and these are very speculative. We have
Right.
not
And
talked
when you
about
talk
them.
personnel, it depends on the departments. Those could be substantial as well.
That's correct.
Especially when you're talking public safety.
That's right. And you're talking cutting into core services. But it could be we could reduce the number of snow routes we have. And reduce some individuals there. People are used to having great snow plowing in Rock Island, and we may have to make a change there. It could be collecting garbage every other week. It could be closing a fire station. There's
all things you guys have to talk about.
we got to talk about, but we do need to get real serious about those. But it is going to cut into core services.
Well, we have more to talk about with Rock Island Mayor Mike Tomes. Winning some business, what groundwork those millions of dollars in investments can mean for Rock Island. For the record.